Ladies and gentlemen, throughout the course of time, history has been the ultimate judge of human actions. It has the power to reveal the truth, uncover the hidden, and elevate those who stood for justice, righteousness, and progress. Many individuals who were once ridiculed, persecuted, or misunderstood in their own time have later been recognized as heroes by future generations. This is the undeniable power of history. It vindicates those who dared to challenge the status quo, fight for what is right, and dedicate their lives to a greater cause. History has always played the role of the ultimate judge, determining how individuals, movements, and ideas are remembered. While the present moment may be clouded by bias, misinformation, or resistance to change, history has a way of revealing the truth over time. It does not immediately reward or recognize those who fight for justice, but as time progresses, it ensures that their contributions are acknowledged and their legacies are preserved. The judgment of history is not based on fleeting opinions or temporary setbacks, but on the lasting impact of an individual's actions. Many figures who were initially scorned, rejected, or punished by society eventually earned their rightful place in history. This is because history, unlike contemporary society, has the advantage of hindsight. When people are too close to an event, they are often influenced by emotions, political interests, or cultural prejudices that prevent them from seeing the full picture. However, as years pass and perspectives shift, history provides a clearer, more objective assessment of a person's legacy. Galileo Galilei serves as a perfect example of how history ultimately vindicates those who stand for truth. In his lifetime, he faced intense persecution for supporting the heliocentric theory, which stated that the Earth revolved around the sun. This idea, though scientifically correct, was seen as heretical by the authorities of his time. Galileo was forced to recant his findings and spent the rest of his life under house arrest. However, centuries later, he is celebrated as a genius who laid the foundations for modern astronomy. The very ideas that led to his condemnation are now universally accepted, proving that history ultimately recognizes those who were ahead of their time. Another powerful example is the case of civil rights leaders who fought against racial and social injustice. Martin Luther King Jr. was viewed by many in his time as a troublemaker, and his nonviolent resistance to racial segregation was met with hostility. He was arrested multiple times and ultimately assassinated. However, today he is revered as a champion of equality and justice, with his words and actions continuing to inspire movements worldwide. The very society that once condemned him now honors him with national holidays and monuments, showcasing history's ability to correct past misjudgments. The same applies to individuals in various fields, including science, politics, and the arts. Many groundbreaking artists, writers, and inventors faced rejection during their lifetimes, only to be recognized as visionaries long after their deaths. Vincent van Gogh, for example, sold only a few paintings while he was alive, struggling with poverty and mental illness. Today, his works are among the most celebrated and valuable in the world. History's judgment turned him from an unappreciated painter into one of the greatest artists of all time. The process by which history vindicates heroes is slow but inevitable. This is because truth and progress are difficult to suppress forever. Even when powerful institutions or widespread misconceptions try to bury the contributions of certain individuals, time has a way of uncovering their true significance. As generations change and knowledge expands, society reassesses the past, correcting the mistakes made by previous eras. For those who fight for justice, innovation, and positive change, the knowledge that history will ultimately judge fairly can serve as encouragement. While immediate recognition may not always come, the impact of their work will not be forgotten. History has proven time and again that those who stand for truth, even when they face opposition, will ultimately be acknowledged and celebrated. The present moment may be fleeting, but history is eternal, and it ensures that true heroes receive the recognition they deserve. Heroes often face opposition because they challenge the existing order, introduce revolutionary ideas, or stand up against injustice. Throughout history, many individuals who fought for progress were met with resistance, ridicule, or even persecution. Society, by nature, tends to resist change, especially when it threatens the status quo. Those who dare to challenge prevailing beliefs or question authority often find themselves at odds with those in power. However, it is precisely this resistance that defines their heroism. True heroes are not those who simply follow the crowd, but those who stand firm in their convictions, even in the face of adversity. One of the main reasons heroes face opposition is that people are often uncomfortable with change. Human beings are creatures of habit, and when someone challenges deeply ingrained beliefs, it can feel like an attack on tradition and stability. This is why many of history's greatest visionaries were seen as radicals or troublemakers in their own time. Their ideas, though revolutionary, were often rejected because society was not yet ready to accept them. A clear example of this can be seen in the life of Mahatma Gandhi. Gandhi's philosophy of nonviolent resistance was seen as impractical and even weak by many during his time. The British colonial rulers viewed him as a threat, arresting him multiple times, while even some of his own countrymen doubted his methods. However, his steadfast commitment to justice and his ability to mobilize millions ultimately led to India's independence. Today, he is celebrated as one of the greatest leaders of all time, but during his life, he had to endure relentless opposition and criticism. Another example is that of Rosa Parks, whose simple act of refusing to give up her bus seat sparked the Montgomery bus boycott and ignited the civil rights movement in the United States. At the time, she was arrested and faced tremendous backlash from those who supported segregation. Many saw her defiance as unnecessary or disruptive. However, her courage helped dismantle an unjust system, and today she is remembered as a hero who changed the course of history. Opposition to heroes often comes not just from governments or institutions, but also from society itself. Many people resist new ideas because they fear the unknown. When a person challenges societal norms, they can face backlash, even from those they are trying to help. This was the case with women's rights activists like Emmeline Pankhurst, who led the suffragette movement in the United Kingdom. Women fighting for the right to vote were seen as rebellious and dangerous. They were imprisoned, force-fed during hunger strikes, and treated as outcasts. Yet their determination paved the way for women's rights, and today their struggle is honored. Even in the field of science and innovation, heroes often face opposition. When Nikola Tesla introduced his ideas about alternating current, AC, he was mocked and discredited by powerful figures like Thomas Edison, who promoted direct current, DC, instead. Tesla's work was ridiculed at the time, and he died in relative obscurity. Yet today, his contributions to electricity and engineering are widely recognized as groundbreaking. The same pattern can be seen in the stories of countless inventors, thinkers, and revolutionaries who were dismissed in their lifetimes but later hailed as geniuses. The opposition that heroes face is often a sign that they are making a difference. If they were not challenging deeply rooted systems or beliefs, they would not provoke strong reactions. Their struggles, hardships, and sacrifices are what make their victories so impactful. Though they may not always be appreciated in their own time, history remembers them for their courage. Those who face resistance today should take heart in knowing that the very opposition they endure is often proof that they are on the right path. In the end, history will judge them not by the hardships they faced, but by the change they brought to the world. Throughout history, many individuals who were once condemned or disregarded in their time have later been recognized as heroes. The process of historical vindication often takes years or even centuries, but eventually the true value of these figures emerges. Galileo Galilei and Nelson Mandela are two prime examples of how history corrects misconceptions and acknowledges the greatness of those who stood for truth, justice, and progress. Initially, they were ridiculed, persecuted, or even imprisoned, but time has transformed them into icons of courage and resilience. Their stories serve as powerful reminders that history ultimately reveals the truth, even when society fails to recognize it in the present. Galileo Galilei, often referred to as the father of modern science, was one of the most brilliant minds of the Renaissance. His work in astronomy and physics laid the foundation for much of modern science. However, in his time, his discoveries were considered dangerous. Galileo supported the heliocentric theory proposed by Copernicus, which stated that the Earth revolved around the sun. This idea directly contradicted the teachings of the powerful Catholic Church, which held that the Earth was the center of the universe. Because of his scientific findings, Galileo was condemned as a heretic, forced to recant his statements, and placed under house arrest for the remainder of his life. He died without receiving recognition for his groundbreaking work. Yet time proved Galileo right. As scientific knowledge advanced, it became undeniable that he had spoken the truth. Today, he is celebrated as one of the greatest scientists of all time, and his discoveries are taught in every classroom around the world. In 1,992 years, more than 350 years after his death, the Catholic Church officially admitted that Galileo had been right. This is a clear example of how history vindicates those who stand by the truth, even when they face overwhelming opposition in their lifetime. Another powerful example of historical vindication is the story of Nelson Mandela. Mandela dedicated his life to fighting against the oppressive system of apartheid in South Africa. He was an outspoken activist, demanding equality and justice for Black South Africans who were being treated as second-class citizens. Because of his activism, he was labeled a terrorist by the South African government and sentenced to life in prison. For 27 years, he remained behind bars, enduring harsh conditions while the world largely ignored his struggle. History had other plans. Over time, global pressure against apartheid increased, and the demand for Mandela's release grew stronger. In 1990, he was finally freed, and just 4 years later, he was elected as South Africa's first Black president. What was once considered a crime, his fight for equality, became the very foundation of a new and just society. Today, Mandela is revered as one of the greatest leaders of the 20th century, honored worldwide for his courage, forgiveness, and dedication to peace. His transformation from a political prisoner to a global icon of justice is one of the most remarkable examples of history correcting its mistakes. These examples show that heroes are often misunderstood, criticized, or punished in their own time, but history eventually reveals their true significance. The world is often slow to accept change, and those who push for progress frequently encounter resistance. Whether in science, politics, or social movements, the pattern remains the same. Visionaries face opposition, but their ideas endure. For anyone striving to make a difference today, these stories serve as a source of inspiration. The road to recognition may be long and difficult, but history has shown time and time again that truth prevails. Those who stand for justice, knowledge, and progress may not always see the results in their lifetime, but future generations will honor them for their contributions. In the end, history does not forget, and it always vindicates heroes. Sacrifice is a defining trait of true heroes. Throughout history, individuals who have fought for justice, freedom, and progress have often endured great hardships. Whether facing imprisonment, exile, financial ruin, or even death, these heroes remain steadfast in their convictions, understanding that their sacrifices were necessary for a greater cause. Their struggles were not in vain, as their actions paved the way for future generations to enjoy the benefits of their courage and dedication. The stories of these individuals serve as powerful reminders that true heroism is not about personal gain, but about the willingness to endure suffering for the betterment of others. One of the most striking examples of heroic sacrifice is the life of Martin Luther King Jr. As the leader of the American Civil Rights Movement, he dedicated himself to the fight for racial equality in the United States. His philosophy of nonviolent resistance inspired millions, but it also made him a target of hatred and violence. He was arrested multiple times, faced constant death threats, and had his home bombed. Despite these dangers, he refused to back down, believing that justice and equality were worth any personal cost. Tragically, his unwavering commitment to the cause led to his assassination in 1968. Yet, his sacrifice was not in vain. His efforts led to the passing of civil rights legislation that transformed American society, and today he is celebrated as one of the greatest leaders in history. His life is a testament to the fact that true heroes are willing to endure suffering to bring about meaningful change. Another example of sacrifice in the name of progress is the story of Joan of Arc. As a young woman in medieval France, she claimed to have received divine visions instructing her to lead the French army against the English during the Hundred Years' War. Despite widespread skepticism and the dangers of war, she led her troops to several victories, playing a crucial role in changing the course of the conflict. However, her success made her enemies among the powerful. She was captured, put on trial for heresy, and ultimately burned at the stake at the age of 19. At the time, she was condemned as a heretic, but history later recognized her as a martyr and a national hero of France. Centuries later, she was canonized as a saint by the Catholic Church. Her sacrifice highlights the painful reality that those who fight for their beliefs often pay the ultimate price before receiving the recognition they deserve. The sacrifices of heroes are not limited to war and political struggles. Scientists, too, have faced immense hardships in their pursuit of truth. Marie Curie, one of the greatest scientific minds in history, dedicated her life to researching radioactivity. She faced gender discrimination, financial struggles, and immense personal loss. Her groundbreaking discoveries revolutionized medicine and physics, but they also took a heavy toll on her health. She suffered from prolonged radiation exposure, which ultimately led to her death. Yet, her sacrifice brought immense benefits to humanity, including advancements in cancer treatment and medical imaging. Today, she is honored as one of the most influential scientists of all time, and her story reminds us that progress often comes at a great personal cost. Heroes are defined not by their comfort, but by their willingness to endure suffering for the greater good. Their sacrifices may not be recognized in their lifetime, but history eventually acknowledges their contributions. The courage to stand up against oppression, fight for justice, or push the boundaries of knowledge requires an extraordinary level of dedication. Many of these individuals never saw the fruits of their labor, but their efforts changed the world for generations to come. For those who aspire to make a difference, these stories serve as both a warning and an inspiration. The path of heroism is not easy. It demands sacrifice, resilience, and an unwavering belief in one's cause. However, history has shown that these sacrifices are never in vain. The world may resist change in the present, but the future will always honor those who gave everything for a better tomorrow. The passage of time brings justice, revealing the true value of people, ideas, and movements that were once misunderstood or rejected. While the present can be clouded by bias, fear, and resistance to change, time gradually clears away misconceptions and allows for a fairer judgment. This pattern has repeated throughout history, showing that what may seem radical or controversial today often becomes the foundation for progress tomorrow. When the fog of prejudice and ignorance lifts, the real heroes and visionaries emerge, recognized for the depth of their contributions. Consider the story of Vincent van Gogh, an artist whose work is now celebrated worldwide. During his lifetime, Van Gogh struggled to gain any recognition. He sold only a handful of paintings, lived in poverty, and battled mental illness. Many contemporaries dismissed his art as bizarre and unappealing. Yet after his death, the power and beauty of his work gradually became apparent. Today, his paintings are among the most valuable and admired pieces of art ever created. The passage of time allowed people to see beyond their initial biases and appreciate the raw emotion and innovation in Van Gogh's work. This delayed recognition serves as a reminder that greatness is not always understood in its own time. Similarly, the abolitionist movement faced immense resistance during its fight to end slavery. Leaders like Frederick Douglass, Harriet Tubman, and John Brown were often labeled as agitators and radicals. They risked their lives to challenge a deeply entrenched system of oppression. For many years, their efforts were met with hatred and violence, but as time passed and the moral arguments against slavery became undeniable, history judged them differently. Today, they are honored as heroes who stood on the right side of justice. The same pattern has been observed in many civil rights struggles across the globe, proving that while the fight for equality may be long and painful, time ultimately reveals who stood for the truth. The scientific community offers countless examples of revolutionary thinkers who were initially dismissed but later celebrated. Gregor Mendel, the father of modern genetics, published groundbreaking work on heredity in 1866. However, his research was largely ignored during his lifetime, and he died without knowing the impact his findings would have. It was not until decades later that scientists rediscovered his work, recognizing it as the cornerstone of genetics. The delay in acknowledgement did not diminish the importance of Mendel's discovery. It only highlighted how progress sometimes requires the world to catch up with visionary ideas. The notion that time brings justice also applies to social movements that challenge the established order. Women's suffrage, for example, faced intense opposition from political and cultural institutions. Women who fought for the right to vote were mocked, ostracized, and in some cases imprisoned. Yet, as the decades passed, society began to see the undeniable logic and fairness of their cause. The sacrifices of early suffragettes paved the way for equal voting rights, and today they are celebrated as pioneers of women's rights. Their persistence proved that while justice might be delayed, it cannot be denied forever. What allows time to bring justice is the gradual erosion of ignorance. Prejudice and fear often blind people to the truth, but as new generations emerge and new evidence comes to light, perspectives shift. The ideas and actions that once seemed threatening or incomprehensible are reevaluated with greater clarity. This natural process of reflection and learning is why many of history's greatest heroes were not appreciated until long after they were gone. It also serves as a powerful encouragement for those fighting for change today, an assurance that their efforts will not be forgotten. For those who dare to challenge norms and fight for justice, understanding the patience of history can be a source of strength. It reminds us that even when the world seems indifferent or hostile, the truth will endure. The progress we see today is often the fruit of someone else's struggle, years, decades, or even centuries ago. Their stories teach us that genuine change takes time, but is always worth pursuing. In the end, history has a way of setting things right. It rewards those who were true to their principles and stood firm against adversity. While the present may judge harshly or unfairly, the future offers a broader view, one that respects courage, innovation, and sacrifice. The knowledge that time brings justice should inspire everyone to live with integrity, knowing that their actions, even if unappreciated now, can ripple through the ages to bring about a better world. Heroes inspire future generations, leaving behind a legacy that continues to shape the world long after they are gone. Their courage, sacrifices, and unwavering dedication serve as a blueprint for those who come after them, proving that one person's determination can create lasting change. Whether in politics, science, art, or social justice, history's greatest figures ignite the passion of new leaders, thinkers, and activists who carry their missions forward. One of the most powerful examples of this influence is Mahatma Gandhi. His philosophy of nonviolent resistance inspired not only the people of India in their struggle for independence, but also civil rights movements across the world. Martin Luther King Jr. adopted many of Gandhi's principles in his fight for racial equality in the United States, proving that ideas of peace and justice can transcend borders and time periods. Even today, leaders and activists continue to draw from Gandhi's teachings, showing that his impact did not end with his life, but lives on in those who seek to change the world through peaceful means. In science, figures like Albert Einstein have left an intellectual legacy that continues to inspire researchers and innovators. Einstein's theories revolutionized physics, but beyond his discoveries, his curiosity, resilience, and willingness to challenge conventional thinking remain a model for scientists. His belief in the importance of imagination and questioning the status quo has shaped countless breakthroughs in modern science. Every physicist working today stands on the foundation that he helped build, demonstrating how one person's brilliance can guide generations of progress. Heroes also inspire through their personal stories of perseverance. Helen Keller, who overcame the immense challenge of being blind and deaf, became a global advocate for people with disabilities. Her story has encouraged millions to push beyond limitations and redefine what is possible. Similarly, Malala Yousafzai's fight for girls' education has inspired young people around the world to stand up for their rights, proving that even in the face of adversity, one voice can spark global change. The mark of a true hero is not just what they achieve in their lifetime, but how their actions continue to inspire others. Their words, deeds, and sacrifices live on, encouraging new generations to dream bigger, fight harder, and believe in the possibility of a better world. History does not forget heroes because their influence never truly fades. It only grows stronger with time